Is that the Newton Brothers record?
This is from season 1.
Newton Brothers, good friends of the pod.
We've gotten to have them on a couple times. Big fans.
Oh my. Okay, the trailer for season 2, the score for the trailer for season 2. I was just playing it just to hear the score. It was magnificent. Magnificent.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Friends from Work, a podcast about all things in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, hosted by myself, Kyle Sconwell, and my longtime friend from work, Robbie Earl. Jam-packed episode today.
Love you're on 1.3 speed.
Yeah, no time. I just recorded our Spider-Man YouTube video where I intentionally am talking so fast, so I think I'm used to it. Trying to keep people's attention here. Here we go. Boom, 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 boom. 3 parts today. 1, we got to talk about X-Men 97 episodes 1 through 4. Crazy ending of episode 4. There will be spoilers to that, and I highly recommend that you watch it. Again, if you're concerned about spoilers, check the timestamps below, because the middle chunk, we got a chance to talk to Eric and Julia Lewald, I think their name is, the OG creators of X-Men, the animated series, like literally back in 1997, who are still speaking into this season and this series on the reboot. Such a fun conversation. Shout out to them. Shout out to Disney. So that's the middle chunk. And then we got your questions for Spider-Man Brand New Day. I think I saved 6 of them that we're going to get to briefly. So 3 chunks here. Let's start with X-Men 97. Again, skip forward to the Spider-Man stuff if you want Spider-Man talk, but you're not watching X-Men 97 yet. Holy crap. Okay, I have 3 overarching things that I love, but you start. I have 3 things that I love.
Yeah.
Just love.
Well, I just want to start saying that the tables have now finally turned from the Moon Knight screener experience, where you saw everything except the most shocking moment of that series in episode 4. And I saw everything except episode. Well, I didn't actually see episode 3 either until after the fact. But I feel like that was a lot less explosive than episode 4. Although episode 3 was also really fun because of the inclusion of the Kang stuff, or at least like Ramatut. And then that all kind of came to a head in 4. But man.
By the way, you're exactly right. Because when we were previewing, like even we were talking to Eric and Julia, I'm like, if you haven't seen Rise of Apocalypse Part 1 and 2, that's what I was referencing when I said the MCU thing, like just to see Kang and then have the actual outfit. That's one of my things. But yes,
and the little like kind of gold sphere thing, the way it looks in Quantumania.
I know. That's one of my things, so I'm saving it. But yeah, like if you hadn't seen those 2, which you hadn't, it's a different experience when I had seen 4 and you'd seen 2, just like Moon Knight. Yeah. I'm sitting there thinking like, man, no, this is like, that's what I meant by it's even better, I think. This is 100% to me. And I get the first 2 episodes are awesome, but this connected storyline, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
My thing.
That was a really fun 2-parter. Also, I wound up splitting it up and just kind of watching along with the audience, where I watched season 3 when it came out on Disney Plus, and then watched season 4. So like that cliffhanger is pretty, like, it's such classic like 90s cartoon storytelling in a fun way. Like so much of this show feels adult in the way that I think it should, and it does such an excellent job of balancing that. Like it still has the spirit of the original, but it is recognizing that it's playing to an aged up audience. But that's one of those moments where, like, man, those shows would always end on cliffhangers like that.
Yeah.
And in just a classic to be continued kind of way. It's that everybody didn't get destroyed, but it's just that kind of, how are they going to get out of this one?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Here are my 3 things. 1, as an MCU fan, it's so cool to me to get some kind of continuation on the Conqueror, and even just hear him. again, if I'm now putting this together. If you read comics, you probably had an alarm go off in your head when you heard Rama-Tut, right? Because Rama-Tut, I think of it as the post-credit scene from Quantumania, where there is like an Egyptian pharaoh type person. But while I'm watching the show, my wife and I don't have that background, so we weren't fully putting that together. But yeah, so first of all, a lot of the imagery is the same from Quantumania. It's that like circular gold like sphere basically that has these different rings that come out of it. And so to see like the city of Egypt, whatever city in Egypt that is, have like the whole protection thing that he has, to see him actually put on his Kang face mask that makes him blue and then to teleport away in the same exact ship basically from Quantumania, like that circular thing. Yeah. Even him saying, I thought it was so cool that he goes like, this is no longer my time to conquer. Like he realizes this is not my thing. I'll go somewhere else. And then even the cheesy line of only time will tell. I don't know, man. Just as an MCU fan, you know that I've had a huge gap with Kang because I just wanted more of what they were teasing. And I know all the off the screen stuff. Right. This is a little bit giving me that, even though it's not the same thing. It's at least like what it's doing is it's building up that Kang is a formidable threat in the multiverse, regardless if it's this one or the Jonathan Majors one. Is that fair?
Yeah. But you know what I like is it's what we talked about liking with Kang way back when he was introduced in Quantumania, which is they're not trying to make him the strongest. Yeah. You know, like I kind of, because in a lot of ways, like there are a lot of similarities between Apocalypse and Thanos, not in terms of power sets, but more just the kind of like inevitability idea and the fact that they're just this thing that is magnitudes stronger than anyone else around them. And I like that Kang or Rama-Tut had the moment where he knew that it was over, and he's not like shocked or freaked out. He's just like, all right, well, that's it. And then he just pieces out.
Sucks for the other people.
Yeah, but it's like that to me is that's his, like that's the genius, I guess, of a character like that, where he doesn't have to play that game. He's just like, okay, well, I'm going to leave and come back and play this on my own terms somewhere else. And that's the kind of like, it's a different sort of inevitability. And I like that it's not just, it prevents the constantly escalating who's actually the strongest, who's going to win in a fight thing.
It's also a great picture of what he's talking about in Loki season 2, especially the finale. You know how Loki has to keep doing all these different trials of going back in time, pausing time. This is a perfect example of if Kang also is doing that, and that's how he basically by manipulating time, that's where he gets his quote unquote strength. Yeah. By taking advanced tech, right, from thousands of years in the future, because he's done it so many times back to Egypt or whatever. Yeah. I like that this is an example of, okay, this didn't work this time. Like I'll leave and I'll come back some other time, and maybe the next time I can do something differently or have different tech or just go somewhere else. So I love it. I love it. Yeah.
It's a perfect example. Think? So, you know, like one of the things in episode 4 is you see like the glyphs of the X-Men and Apocalypse. And so it's this idea that it was always going to happen that way.
Yep. So that's my second thing.
Yeah. So do you think, one, that I mean, it seems as though Apocalypse would not have become Apocalypse. Right. If not for Rama-Tut being there. And also apparently if not for whatever transpires with Professor Xavier and Magneto. So it's the like, I guess the chicken and egg thing. Yep. But it seems like Rama-Tut has come back in some ways to prevent him from becoming Apocalypse, or like maybe trying to seize that power for himself. but it's that like if he hadn't come back, does Apocalypse still become Apocalypse?
So this is my second point. First of all, I love it for the MCU tie-in of Kang. Secondly, I absolutely love it because this is my genre. So I'm going to take you back to Lost, which is, I think, the greatest show for exploring this theme that I've ever seen, which is it whatever happened, happened? There's literally an episode in Lost called Whatever Happened, Happened. Or are they able to affect it? And so there are going to be some spoilers here for Lost. But all of Lost, season 1 and 2, spoilers here, for a show that's 25 years old, they are exploring this. They reference this incident. There's an incident that changed the whole course of the island. The incident. Finally, in season 5, they go back in time, and you're able to see the Dharma Initiative where they're talking about this incident. Well, it gets to this key decision where they have to decide, is a bomb going to go off or are we going to stop it? And don't know, is the incident the bomb went off and that became the incident, or is actually them stopping it the incident? And so you're constantly battling with, if they had not gone back in time, would there be an incident?
Yeah.
Or was the incident going to happen regardless, and they actually can stop it from happening, this incident, and change the course of history? So it's always this idea of, can you whenever you mess with time stuff, if you throw a stone in the water, how large do the ripples go out, and would that have happened anyways? And so that's the beauty of this show that's so cool. If the X-Men never went back to stop Apocalypse, or as Magneto would say, or Magnus, change him, would he have become Apocalypse or not? If they weren't there, would Ramatut have stopped him? Would he just become a regular slave and lost one of those fights? Would he never have even rebelled if he had no reason to believe that? Or were they on the verge of actually stopping him from becoming Apocalypse and saving their time? Because you can impact it, but then it went awry. And I think the whole point of this genre is there isn't an answer. I don't know if there even is an answer in like scientific theory, but I love it. I love when we explore that junk.
And it's I was actually rewatching season 1, kind of in between my time watching the screeners and then waiting for it to come out, because I just realized I had only seen all that stuff once, and it really does pick up right where it leaves off. And I had forgotten that line in one of the final episodes of the season, when Cable's talking about how many times he's gone to Genosha and tried to save Madeline before the attack, and how no matter what, he couldn't do it. And Beast says something like, the mystics at Kamar-Taj speak of absolute points that cannot be changed, which obviously plays into the What If Doctor Strange episode, and also kind of the like into the Spider-Verse. Right.
And Loki a little bit, and Deadpool, right?
Oh, yeah. Like
they
sort
kind
of
talk
the
about
anchor
the same
being type.
Yeah. And these moments that no matter what, definitely Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
The canon events, they call them in that movie.
Canon
like, no
events,
matter what you do, Uncle Ben dies.
And I like that. I mean, I think the What If tie is the easiest, because obviously those are both Marvel Animation properties. But I was thinking about that here too, because if Apocalypse, like Charles at the end of episode 4 says, like, we couldn't stop him, we never stop him. And so maybe that's the idea. It's like, maybe it wouldn't have happened that way if they had not gone back, but it happened some other way, or it was going to happen no matter what.
Literally inevitable. Like you said, the word inevitable. I think it's also going to be somewhat informing for Secret Wars or Doomsday, because it seems like in this genre, any project that I can think of where somebody goes back to try to change something, and like what Magnus's mission is, which I get, by the way, and I love it. I love what he's trying to do. And I like his idea that it's actually Charles's idea, just a better version of it if we go this route. Think about the harmony we could have if Apocalypse never causes issues, kind of thing. But it seems like whenever that happens, it doesn't go well in any movie or TV thing that I can think of. Time tends to push back. And I think that they have set the precedent now that even if they didn't cause it, like you're saying, it seems like there's these canon events or something's going to go awry no matter what. It never seems to be super happy, whatever. Everything works out. Well, that's what the Avengers did in Endgame. And as of right now, it feels like everything kind of worked out. But there is that comment from Tony, you mess with time, it tends to push back. I just wonder if that's what they're going to explore now. It's like, because you did this, you're causing all these issues, or these things happen that shouldn't have happened. Same with Loki. That's where we're headed. And so this feels like, again, kind of tied in because it's another exploration of the same idea.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm so curious because, we've talked a little bit about how they're re-releasing Endgame, and they have this new footage that's supposed to connect to Doomsday, and I'm not sure if we know whether that is like a end credit stinger thing or if that's like injected into the movie.
Right.
But yeah, it does make you think, okay, well, there's some tie, like beyond whatever tie there was between like Age of Ultron and Infinity War, like which is just naturally, it's the next Avengers movie. There seems to be something that happens in Endgame that sets that up. So I am curious how much they're playing with a similar idea, and how much time traveling it is versus just kind of multiverse exploration. But like, I think about all that stuff, like in the X-Men 97 context, I think what's cool is like, one, this universe is just becoming such a fun way for them to explore a more comic booky version of like a connected on-screen Marvel universe, which was always what they were able to do like in the 90s. And it's what made the Spider-Man show so fun, is it was just packed with all these cameos. And you had Doctor Strange episodes and Iron Man episodes and the Fantastic Four and Captain America, way more than you ever did in X-Men or in X-Men. Like X-Men had relatively few appearances of non-X-Men characters. Like there's like a Captain America episode, but by and large, they kind of kept it focused on the mutant stuff. And I think that's something that they're pulling in, because this can sort of now be, it's always going to be X-Men, but they're recognizing that it can kind of be whatever they want it to be. Just this sort of like 90s Marvel universe that can operate totally separately from anything else. And that's cool, because you see like in the stinger for episode 4, like Captain America again and Natasha again. And it's showing that all of the appearances of characters like that in the first season weren't just throwaway cameos, which makes me think that maybe eventually we can get the 90s Spider-Man back, which is my secret hope still, since he has yet to appear in any of the Spider-Verse movies, despite the multiple...
He's not one of the cameos in the Spider Society?
No.
Oh, wow.
At least not like the voice actor, And again, he shows up in 97 season 1, both as Peter Parker and Spider-Man, but not with speaking lines. But that's cool, like the self-contained universe and just how far they could go with that. Like I forgot all of the characters that you see in the season 1 finale. Like it's Daredevil and Cloak and Dagger and Doctor Strange. And
I forgot about that too.
It's crazy, like so many characters. And I feel like they have set a precedent where they can do any of that, and that's cool. But also I think what's kind of cool is Marvel, since introducing the version of the TVA that we've seen in the MCU, has actually done little things here and there to show that like that is a universe that exists like any other universe relative to the comics. So like there are comics that reference things that have happened like there are comics that reference the events of Loki and that version of Loki from the MCU as just like something that's happened in another universe. And so I also wonder, like, no, I don't think that X-Men 97 is going to like connect directly to Doomsday or Secret Wars. But to your point about like Kang being able to travel the multiverse, it sort of can, though. Like they don't have to like belabor it, but they can hint at it in fun ways.
It's the same kind of thing to me from Spider-Verse where Miguel says, and don't even get me started on that kid from Earth 616 messing with
or 9999 or whatever.
Whatever it was.
Yeah.
But it's actually pretty smart when you look at it in hindsight, because all these properties only have to do little hints like that. And then you can look back, again, depending on what happens with Doomsday and Secret Wars, at all these things as being not canon, but the whole point of the multiverse is all these universes split out at different points. So there is a universe that's fully animated at one point, and that's all that exists or whatever. Yeah. And so I think it is believable to say that, that is kind of the same Kang, if you will, or not the same Kang, but it's the Kang, just a different version of him doing this thing, just like you saw, 10,000 of them at the end of Quantumania. They're all from their own thing.
And it is actually,
so it's genius.
Like in Across the Spider-Verse, to your point, like we see Donald Glover as a
the
real life person.
The same kind of,
like not animated.
Exactly.
So there is this idea.
Well, and in Multiverse of Madness, one of the things was like paint or animation as they go through one of them. It's crazy because I don't think it needs to be any more than that, right? It's not like you have to have the Miles movies totally connected to X-Men 97, but it's enough to go, look, this is the whole point of the multiverse. This all exists. And if they kind of land the plane with Tobey Maguire being in Secret Wars, things like that, you're just kind of re-emphasizing, this is all open. Now, what's interesting is, do they quote unquote end the multiverse? And then what does that mean for like X-Men 97 season 3 or 4? At some point with Secret Wars, do they want to go, you know what? This doesn't exist anymore. It's one timeline. There is no multiverse. In which case, do they then just go, now we're just making an animated show because we want to make an animated show? That's why I still think like there's a part of me that thinks this is crazy, but I think they can't fully close the door on it because I don't think they want, to the degree they want this stuff to keep going and they want this to kind of be quote unquote canon, I don't think they want the door closed on that part of it yet. You know what I'm saying?
It to me, it feels kind of like like instead of it all coming to a head and then shutting down altogether and you just have one timeline, it almost feels like they're converging at a point. And then I think that they can continue out from that point also. But
they
it's
all
like this
experience
is when
that point, and then from that point on, there are still universes, but they're going about their own lives, basically.
And like they don't. I think everybody in all forms of media, and I don't think this is Marvel's fault. It's just one of those weird things where things get in the ether and everybody wants to do it. I just don't think that there is going to be, especially after Secret Wars, much of an appetite for people coming from alternate
version of.
It's just at some point we've done everything we can do with that concept. So I don't think that people are going to be sad to not see this version interacting with this version.
Right.
I think
we didn't get Morbius interacting with Kraven. Oh no. that kind of thing.
We can only hope.
Okay, I got to keep this rolling. I have two final things. One, yes, it's awesome the way I guess I'll just say this. They're paving the way for what it looks like where the Avengers and X-Men operate in the same universe. And that's pretty cool. Couple times even in this series, they say, oh, that's the Avengers, or the Avengers this, blah, blah, blah. And then obviously the Black Widow and Captain America came at the end. The third point I was going to make that I just loved is I love them being so bold. So the ending of actually blowing up Magnus and having his failure so front and present, and like that moment being so perfect because he was the one fighting for this, thinking it wouldn't happen. And so for him to have to pay the price, then that epic line from Apocalypse, why he doesn't kill Charles because he's an ant, is so chilling. And then they end the whole thing in silence. just silence
man.
for the whole last little bit. So shout out to the Newton brothers. I thought the music has been fantastic.
Yeah.
And then shout out to the editors to cut the music. I just think anytime you can be bold with stuff like this, now they may find a way to bring Magnus back in 2 years or something, and that's what I don't like about comic book movies.
Right.
But if
because they already, they killed him off in Remember It in season 1.
This felt like for real though, to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's holding him, he blasts him in the head, and he's gone.
And again, I do think, they will probably find some way to bring, like maybe he also comes back as some kind of horseman or something. But I, like looking at this, it's one of those things where I'm fine to be proven wrong, but I kind of think that you've told a great story with that character. I mean, he's such a central part of the original series. He has such a defined, moving arc in the first season of 97.
And then here as well.
Yeah, so I'm not sure.
And him and Charles made full amends basically by the end.
Like, I don't know that I want, I never like the bringing somebody back, but they're actually mind controlled and kind of evil and don't know who they are thing that tends to happen in comic booky properties. But it was a pretty moving.
Killing him. It was very moving.
Yeah.
Again, that's what I was sitting on. And that's a perfect transition because you and I got a chance to talk to Eric and Julia Lewald. I think it's Lewald. The OG creators of this show. And it was a really fun conversation. When you and I were having this conversation, though, you had only seen 2 episodes and I had seen 4. And I desperately wanted to ask them about Magnus and couldn't while you were there. So we actually kicked you out before the last question, which was really fun. So I guess let's hear from them. You're going to really enjoy this conversation. It's like I think it's like 15, 16, 17 minutes. It's not crazy long, but they were fun to talk to about their origin story with the original animated series. And then after that, come back and we're going to talk about Spider-Man Brand New Day with some really fun questions. All right, we'll be back with that interview after a quick word from these sponsors. Well, Eric and Julia, welcome to Friends from Work. It is our absolute honor and privilege to have you here. Welcome.
Oh,
Thanks.
Yes.
Thanks so much.
Thank you all. Okay, so to dive in here, I was a huge fan of the original series. I went back and watched the whole thing before the first season of 97 came out, and it all held up just as I hoped that it would. Y'all are obviously big fans of the Claremont era, and even going further back with some of the things that were referenced. And the original series did such a great job of adapting the most iconic X-Men stories from the 60s and especially the 70s and 80s. But then you made your own contribution with the 90s animated series that then was such a big influence on the comics that came after that. It sort of, the influence maybe turned around. So I'm curious what it was like now kind of coming back to this team, to the X-Men, and what your relationship was like in that, 2-decade period between.
Back in the 90s when the first X-Men animated series came out and we were doing our jobs, heads down, getting it written and getting it story edited and put out, we got copies of the Nielsen ratings. We knew the show was doing well, but there was the internet wasn't really a thing yet. There was no instant interaction. So we were just doing our darndest to do the best work we could do.
And hoping it would all work.
Yeah.
And you never know if the magic's going to happen in the show. As we worked on 50 different shows literally in our career, and this is the one where all the magic came together. But to your question about the all the new X-Men shows in between, we really looked at it the first
13
show as Mark and I, who were like the main people on the writing side, we really didn't know the books before we started the show. And so we didn't have an agenda.
Oh, wow.
There were a number of writers that really knew the books,
And
all the artists knew the books. But we just came to it from like heroic storytelling. So we just thought, well, what's the most intense, dramatic stuff that you can do in 22 minutes for a kid show, an animation on Saturday morning that's true to that's true to the origin material. And so we didn't have like 30 different characters we're dying to put into the episodes. We just thought, well, okay, if we came up with a story about Nightcrawler, it just needed to be intensely about him. And let's just do all we can. If it's Rogue, what's the most intense thing we could do with her? Well, maybe she's considering giving up her power because she's just so lonely, and just build a story around that. And then pull stuff like from reference books, from the books, to flesh it out. And so we just were looking at the characters and saying, how can we make the most dramatic story for her or for him? And that's why there's enough different and original stories in that aren't like a direct adaptation like Days of Future Past or the Phoenix stories, which obviously we're trying to adapt those, although we had to do those a bit differently because we had different characters.
speaking of someone who wrote episode 11, Days of Future Past, part 1, for the first 13, because we were all hired to work on 13 episodes.
And then we all let go because they all didn't think it was going to work, because Hollywood didn't think it was going to be popular.
So 13 episodes, one and done. So Marvel in New York wasn't really sure how this was going to, they had their fingers crossed, but by the time it came to episode 11, 12, and 13, they were feeling more confident in the stories that we were telling.
They said they'd let us try and use one of their crown jewels.
You get to use, get to use Days of Future Past, okay? But
you had to like earn it.
Yeah, exactly. But you can't use Kitty Pryde because now it's Jubilee, and you can't do this.
Right.
And you can't have someone going, you can't have a brain thing going back in time. You have
And we didn't think it for TV. The spirit of somebody going back would work very well. So we wanted to have a real person. So we added Bishop, and there were half a dozen just basic things that we did to fit our cast and to fit it being television. And we've spoken to Claremont since then. He got it. He understood why.
Very generous.
But those are the kind of challenges. And like with the Phoenix stories, if you notice, one of the things Chris Claremont does, he has like 6 different stories going in his books, and one of them ends here and one of them ends here. And that was great for the people reading it. But to try to tell a simpler, more streamlined story on a TV show was paring away all the stuff that wasn't like Scott and Jean focused. We tried to make Jean's going through this, so these are going to be big Scott stories because he's the one that it affects most. Obviously, he and Wolverine are the ones that affects most. So those are the kind of decisions we'd make. Well, if you look back at the I don't know how many, we had 9 episodes for the Phoenix. There are probably 30 comics. Probably 2/3 of the comics are. The secondary stories were pared away so that we could get to the heart of what was going on with Jean.
I love that. And then with coming back 30 years later now for this version of it, I'm interested in the line you guys would have to find, in that you're making a show that you want to catch up with modern technology and make it more modern storytelling for the modern audience, but still trying to play on the nostalgia of the 90s and maybe the technical limitations that you had so that it still feels like it fits the same era. I guess I'm just interested in that line and exploring that.
That was absolutely all the executives, Brad and Dana, who've been running the show from the start. They understood that they wanted this to be a continuation. And so they wanted it to, say someone coming new to the old series and then going to this could be episode 77, the old series. They could make it look like anything today. They could make it look 3D. They could make it look much slicker. They specifically made it look as close to the original designs as they could. And that was their decision. And it was heartening for us, because so many times in Hollywood, someone says, "Oh, we had a hit 30 years ago. Let's redo it and have a spin-off or have a new, a new way of thinking about it." And the fans of the old one just wondered, what in the world are you doing? Why? These people all wanted to continue our old show, which again is like a gift to us. You want to hold up the old book?
Oh,
Yeah. The new book, the new book. So anyway, as we understand it,
here we go.
this was
Oh,
kind of the
wow.
artist. This was part of the artist template for them. We wrote this for Marvel. Came out in 2020.
That's cool.
What happened was
Came out COVID year.
this book, Eric crafted
Yes.
an oral history book of the show that was just us putting
Yeah, it was
together.
just us. It was when Marvel didn't even have the
2017.
rights to the show back together. Disney hadn't bought
Oh.
Fox yet, so
Yeah.
there couldn't be a Marvel production of a book. We just did it on our own.
And then
When they got the rights together, they said, "We liked your book, but it doesn't have any of our art in it. So let's
That's
do
cool.
a book with it has all the designs of every character,
There you
even
go.
the
The
secondary
official
ones."
art.
Man.
Yeah, so this was kind of like a blueprint, a template for them
But we didn't know that.
to do a 2024 version massage of exactly those designs.
We were able to find them. Fortunately,
Luckily,
luckily,
some of the artists kept their work.
and we had the scripts and storyboards above our garage. It was like a little treasure hunt coming up with material for that book, but we didn't know where Marvel was going with the book.
Yeah.
We were lucky and happy to participate in the making of that book.
Yeah,
And then
and
we
they had
started-
told us then that they were going to do a new series.
Then we started hearing in the breeze that something might be
Yeah,
bubbling.
might be bubbling because fans always ask us that at cons. Is there going to be?
Yeah.
Is there going to be another series? And we said, well, it's not certainly not up to us, and we'd love to be part of it, but that isn't the way it usually works in Hollywood. So cross our fingers. We hope there will be one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And here we are.
Yeah.
Here we are.
I'm curious. You sort of previewed this when you were talking about not having Kitty Pryde, and then now we're coming back, and there's a whole new batch of characters, some that were introduced in season 1 and some that I think we're slowly getting introduced to in season 2. How much of a say have y'all had, or were you part of that conversation about which characters were being introduced at various points?
It's really more the executives and the showrunners have been the ones that have been we let them know some of our favorite choices,
Yeah.
who we like to tell stories about, but it's really been something we've been more on the reactive side. The 30 somethings, and like people like Matthew Chauncey, who's running the scripts right now, they and the artists are doing the 60, 70-hour weeks and making the show work. And we're looking over their shoulders and saying, "Yeah, that looks good," or "I've got a question."
Right.
And that's our gentle participation. And so we really haven't. We're trying not to to push an agenda, because we kind of feel like we got to tell our 76 stories, and that when we were in our 30s, so the guys in their 30s now and women in their 30s now, we want to let them tell their stories.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we close on this, Robbie, and let you get out of here so I can ask one question about something that doesn't spoil something. So for those of you who don't know, Robbie's only seen 2 episodes. I've seen 4 episodes. I want to ask them a question about something that he doesn't want spoiled. So Robbie, thank you for your time.
That's well,
Nice talking
thank you all
with you.
so much for creating something that has been such an incredible influence and foundational for so many folks like me. I would certainly not be hosting this podcast if not for some of the foundation that y'all laid. So I will say thank you, and thank you, Kyle, for not getting spoiled on a big reveal. And hope to talk to y'all again. You're welcome back on the show anytime.
Thank you.
Just let us know, Robin.
Oh.
We're here.
We would love that.
So final question. I don't know how much this is your decision or not, but even just from your perspective, what was it like getting to explore Apocalypse specifically, or like when they made that decision that he was going to be a part of this? And then, the 4th episode ends with this crazy ending of Magnus. I'm sure you've seen it. Yes. Yeah. Of Magnus getting blown to bits here, and then rolling credits in silence. So again, if you're listening, you're just now having seen that. What was your reaction to that decision, and what do you think Apocalypse represents kind of to these X-Men?
Well, okay, here we go. Interesting when the original series began to use Apocalypse, he was fairly new to the books at that time in the 90s. He was Apocalypse, but there wasn't a lot of backstory information on him at that time. And so over time, in the 30 years, you had 30 years of books to work with. Folks on 97 now have 60 years of books to work with. X-Men Apocalypse has become this character with more backstory that we're able to explore now.
And we love origin stories.
Oh my gosh.
And he's so big. I absolutely, we've had this discussion. I think he works so much better in animation where the scale of him can be maintained and where he's just so much larger than life. And meeting him back when his character was forming, thousands of years ago,
right,
is just a real gift. I mean, it's I love finding out that the depth of people's background, and I think people will be surprised that he's not just this evil presence. He grew into this.
Yes.
And so that's it. It was a real gift to us to do that. And end of season, you talk about episode 4. Think about episode 5, the season before. Fans,
remember it.
Remember it. So I think you're going to see a similar reaction here.
Yeah, I was so moved, and like you said, I just want to reiterate, it's been so cool as a fan to see this, that they're taking on Apocalypse in the future and the past at the same time, and you have Magneto who kind of believes that he can be turned around, and the chance to mess, it's totally my genre, the chance to mess with this idea of time travel, what happened, or are we influencing, are we making this happen? Are we part of his origin story? And so I guess I'll just say props to you and the whole team, because I'm so in. I thought the first 4 episodes were unbelievable. I loved the first season of 97, and I thought this surpassed it 100% for me. So I want to say thank you, as like Robbie did. It's been so cool so far already, and I can't wait to see where it goes.
Kyle, thank you so much for that. It means the world to us.
Yeah.
And again,
and I think you're going to like the last 5 at least as much.
That's what I want to hear. Well, thank you so much. Like Robbie said, your contribution to fans like us, immeasurable. So we really appreciate you guys. Thank you for taking time today too, and good luck to you with the rest of your interviews and stuff today.
Thank you.
Appreciate it,
much.
Kyle.
Okay, and it's not too late as a reminder to order your Friends from Work merch. We have a brand new website that is incredible looking. The ffwpodcast.com. I'm going to play a little bit of it right here on the video if you're watching. Such a cool new website, and the shop is right there, front and center. So if you click on that shop, order your Friends from Work Spider-Man t-shirt before Brand New Day comes out. We would love that. It supports us. At minimum, just go check out the website. There's actually some incredible new links, a link directly to Greg's reviews via the water cooler, a link directly to your curated watch orders, plural, the main watch order, sub mini watch orders, and then the shop and anything you need from the podcast on the ffwpodcast.com. And go ahead.
If from the main menu, you go straight to the studio, it will take you via Bifrost to the page with all of you'll see the latest YouTube uploads there, which is great because Kyle's been putting a lot of fun stuff up there that doesn't always make it onto the podcast feed. And we will have kind of the featured merch items there, which right now is our Brand New Day shirt, which I'm actually very excited to have and to wear because those are some of my favorite shirts that we've put out.
How did you do the Bifrost thing, by the way? It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. So I guess a lot of things real quick. You're right. Also, people maybe don't know this, but we have a YouTube channel. And for example, I put together a really fun 7-minute video that's out really soon, catching people up on Spider-Man. So again, it's a perfect video to get your mind right about Spider-Man. It's a shortened version of our Saga So Far episode, which you'll hear next week. But it's also a good video to show someone who maybe your parents are coming to see Brand New Day and they haven't seen the other ones. Or maybe it's just been 5 years, 10 years almost since Homecoming. And you want a refresher on what happened there. So you can check that out. Check out our website. And then lastly, check out our friends at panelboundcomics.com. All kinds of comics. Marvel, DC, a bunch of stuff. You can get all of your comic needs taken care of at panelboundcomics.com, especially if you use the promo code Friends from Work. It tells them.
In theory, it could even summon the Bifrost.
That was a pretty good. That was a pretty good Eitri.
Yeah,
there,
Eitri. That's my if Dinklage ever taps out, I'll see if Kevin needs me.
You got it. Okay, we are just I think under 3 weeks away from Spider-Man Brand New Day in the theaters. We are just under 2.5 weeks away from San Diego Comic-Con. I'm getting incredibly stoked. I don't know if you've heard any of this stuff, but there's apparently some big rumors. This is the rumor that I'm hearing, that Marvel, not only are they going to show the Doomsday trailer, which will just blow the world up. I have chills. I literally just got chills thinking about like seeing Thor again. Not only that, but apparently the kid from YouTube, they've been sitting on a secret movie, I guess. Like they're going to announce another. Crazy. There's rumor they're going to announce another movie. I don't know how far in the process they are, but it makes it sound like this is my like desperate for next hope. Year? Can you imagine if there actually was one? I don't want just Christmas to Christmas. If they actually have a movie that's a long ways along the line already for next year, that would make me so excited. I just don't know if in today's day and age that's possible without somebody hearing about it, you know? But I don't know, something. Or maybe it's a new movie for after all this that they're excited to share. I don't know what that'd be, but.
Because is the schedule right now, is the next movie in the pipeline Secret Wars? And that
like
next
literally
December?
All it is Christmas time is Doomsday, and then next Christmas is Secret Wars. That's it. There's nothing in between there.
Yeah,
and all they've even said show-wise, to my knowledge, is that there's Daredevil season 3. But there's going to have to be more than one show and one movie. I get why it's a sensitive topic, right? It's like it's a little bit like Ant-Man and the Wasp and Captain Marvel coming out in between the two.
Right.
You got to really be careful depending on what happens in Doomsday.
Yeah.
Here's what I also think it could be. They're back to these rumors that the Russos are directing another Avengers movie. There's rumors
like a third.
Yes, after. Maybe Secret Wars Part 1 and 2 or whatever after this. And so that could be a rumor where that would like bring the house down, and they're already doing that. That would make sense to me. And people don't know that maybe.
Because there has been, like, people have talked about reshoots and all that stuff.
Right.
And maybe that's for Doomsday, but maybe that's more than that.
Right. I never know to the degree, like how intense are these reshoots? Like, is it sometimes they're just going back and literally changing a costume on somebody and they want it different? Or is it like I don't think they're rewriting like how the story goes. Right. I mean, it's probably just like trying to fill a gap or subtract a gap. I know that in like the original, like I had always read that back in the kind of phase 2, phase 3 era, there would be so much reworking once the original shoot was done, and then it wasn't really seen as a sign that the movie had a flaw. It was more like that was a lot of when Feige and his folks would play their largest role. Like, here's what we have. Let's kind of see how this is shaping out and where we see there being gaps and things that we can maybe add on to enhance. And I don't think that the more modern view of reshoots being a sign of production issues, like I don't think that that's entirely fair. No, I don't think so there. But I think, it could just be you want more. Like, I was listening to a podcast about another show the other day, and they were talking about how it was just, they realized afterwards that they wanted more like flashback scenes than they had originally thought that they would to kind of flesh out a character's background. So they brought everyone back in 6 months later, and that doesn't to me read as like, oh, so you had massive issues that you had to fix. It was just like, no, we could do more, so we will. Even on the dumbest small scale, when I'm making the YouTube video of Spider-Man, for example, I write out the script and then I go through and record like 80 clips. Even then, once I'm pacing them with the script, there are always times where I notice, I don't like how I delivered that, or you know what, this clip actually doesn't make sense in context. Right. So you go back through it again. So that's totally normal to me that you would do that on a major film, you know?
I mean, I also, and we can't do this, which is always the signal to do it. But I just want to note, because it's in my mind as we're talking about the potential new things. Didn't Benedict Cumberbatch make some comment like a year or two ago about the role that he would be playing in Secret Wars, or like kind of hinting that he wouldn't be in Doomsday, but he would be back following that? And so to me, if they were to announce a secret movie, some Doctor Strange oriented thing would seem to make a lot of sense.
As like almost part of it.
Yeah.
That closely tied. His perspective of the incursions and the magic side of it or something.
Yeah, I mean, because they set that up. I mean, Multiverse of Madness is still the only movie that has, and Deadpool and Wolverine, that have dealt with it squarely. But Multiverse of Madness is the only one that has really anchored it in the main timeline. So I think that they will have to follow up on that to some degree.
Okay, let's pause on that, because believe it or not, that's one of the mailbag questions. So I put out a bat signal for some questions about Spider-Man Brand New Day, and I got some great ones. Robbie, this is always fun for us to hear from our listeners. Here you go. I edited the heads and tails of these, but I have not thought about the question till right now. Here we go.
Hey guys, my name is Bladen and this is Bryson.
Hi.
We just wanted to say some things. We're big fans. We live in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, so we're neighbors.
Nice.
That's pretty cool.
Let's go.
But Bryson had a cool theory and he wanted to share that.
I think that Man Spider might be in it at some point.
He's really excited to see Man Spider.
Yay.
So he's hoping that he's going to show up.
And I'm a huge Spider-Man fan.
Yeah, maybe the biggest Spider-Man fan.
I even have a Spider-Man pillowcase.
Yep,
Is this the cutest call we've ever had?
I was going to say, I was going to ask, do you guys think we're going to get any more mutants, maybe some X-Men in this new Spider-Man movie before Doomsday? But I think maybe, possibly, I don't know yet. But yeah, no, I just wanted to see see what you guys thought and your thoughts on that. But big fans. Have a good one. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Can I take it's so cute. I mean, that's the cutest call ever.
That's got to be. So he must be like the youngest fan of the 90s Spider-Man series in existence. Because I feel like that's the only place where people would be super familiar with the Man Spider character.
Okay, so you're going to answer the Man Spider thing. Can I take a quick roundabout way to get here? I'm taking a sharp left, and I'm going to get back to this.
Yep.
One of the upcoming Kyle Listen episodes from Neil is about the audiobook series that Stitcher and SiriusXM did called The Marvels. Do you remember this? They did a podcast essentially, like an audiobook kind of spinning off The Marvels from Kurt Busiek and Alex Ross.
I don't know if I knew about that. Maybe I was vaguely aware of that.
So
That's
I edited
cool.
Neil's episode so that it comes out in a couple weeks, and it sounded intriguing to me. So on my last week worth of runs, I listened to the whole thing.
Oh,
and
wow.
it's basically like an alternate version of that comic. Do you remember that comic we read?
Yeah.
And that, like X-Men 97 earlier, is really starting to establish in my head. Again, I'm an MCU guy. I don't know any of this other stuff. But it's again building this world out of these things can all coexist. In that book, you know, the Fantastic Four are under investigation for their role they played with Galactus, but Spider-Man, Peter Parker is a character. And they reference other people. And I'm like, there is a world where like there are Avengers and there's Spider-Man and there's X-Men and because they talk about mutants in that. Remember the mutant kid?
Yeah.
They talk about that, and then the Fantastic Four are also still kind of like the beloved explorers and protectors of New York specifically.
Yeah.
And in that, they do talk about mutants and like how would the Fantastic Four handle mutants and how would Spider-Man view mutants? And I guess I'm trying to say that headset or that mindset has got me more in the mindset of this could kind of work. There is a world where it could actually be Jean Grey, or that there are other mutants starting to be introduced, it's not impossible. I just went through a whole series where it did kind of work. So I actually know nothing about Man Spider. Is it the same kind of Man Spider thing from Spider Noir? Is that kind of the same Man Spider, that thing that bites him? And you answer the Man Spider thing, but from the mutant perspective, I don't think we're going to get a ton of them, but I'm kind of backing off on my aggression of being anti it.
So the way that the 90s series actually handles it could make that make sense. The whole season, I think it's season 2 of that show, is Spider-Man dealing with, I think what they call like the mutation disease. Okay. And the idea is kind of what we're seeing hinted at in the trailers, where like the spider bite kind of turning him into Spider-Man was just the first phase, and then it's now moving to the next phase, which culminates in him being a like full on like human spider with like all of the legs, and he's furry and like a monster basically that is kind of mindless. And in the course of all that, he's trying to figure out what's going on, and he's like going to talk to Dr. Connors, which I feel like is sort of the role they're putting Bruce Banner in the movie. And he also goes and at one point talks to Professor X as like the mutant expert, which is where you get the X-Men Spider-Man crossover from that series. And he's trying to get cured, and Professor X is like, you don't understand, like I don't cure mutants, like I teach them how to use their powers for good and yada yada. But because of that, you know, they could explore a similar thing here if they're playing with the kind of concept of mutation. I think my hesitation there is not so much that I don't want them to ever have X-Men or mutants in a Spider-Man movie. It's more just the timing of that seems odd early, and maybe a little confusing to people, to the average moviegoer, if they're about to see all of the other universe X-Men in a movie 6 months later, or less than that. But yeah, I mean, like on its face, like standing on its own, if we weren't talking about it in the context of Doomsday and Secret Wars coming, I would say it's totally doable. You know, Jean Grey specifically still feels like a strange pick for me, just because I don't. Those aren't characters that I view as being related. But you know, insofar as they're doing the kind of younger version of the X-Men, I have always liked the idea, and they deal with this in the show as well, but they've also dealt with this in various iterations of Spider-Man comics, notably in like the original Ultimate Spider-Man comic. There was always this assumption that Spider-Man was a mutant because he, you know, like, how do you know the difference? And it was like, you have the Ultimates, which are the Avengers in that universe. And kind of like in the MCU, everyone knows who they are. Everyone knows where they come from. There's no real mystery there. So everyone kind of assumes like, yeah, like these people got their powers this way. It's Captain America, even the Hulk, whatever. Like, but Spider-Man, he's a mystery. He wears a mask. We don't trust him. And so he kind of gets lumped in with mutants, and they have some interesting issues like exploring that. And I could see something like that also, as we're kind of back to this version of Spider-Man that no one knows like who he is or where he came from, or that he has that kind of association with Tony. So I guess like my answer being twofold. I could totally see us getting a version of Man Spider, which I think would be fun, if only for a little bit. Like I said, there are some other comic runs that they're pulling from that don't swerve that way. So we'll see, but it certainly seems like a possibility. Two, yeah, I could see that even working with the mutant thing, but it makes me nervous.
On the man spider front, we know that Tom Holland combed through fan theories and Reddit and podcasts to see what fans were wanting. And at my core, I just don't think his takeaway from that work would have been that people want to see him turn into an actual spider. I can't imagine there's enough clamoring for that specifically. So my gut tells me they're messing with the mutation thing, but I don't think it's going to go so far that we see him with furry spider legs and like, I'm out of control. I just don't think that. Now, I don't want to ruin his dreams, but that's my gut. I don't think so. Second question.
I would, just to be fair, I think that if it's more the threat of that and you get it for like a moment, where it's like, it's out of control and that's because you do have to have some sense of what's happening. Like, if it's just he's getting an upgrade and everything,
it
and he's
would
stronger
make sense
now.
that he's then also visiting Bruce. Like, what if the fix for man spider is an inhibitor device like Bruce wears? Here we go.
Hey, Robbie and Kyle. This is Kyle O. Piano Man from the Friends from Work Discord server. In the past, you guys have talked about how Michael Giacchino's score for the Spider-Man films until the ending of No Way Home hasn't quite had the emotional weight that you might want for a character like Spider-Man. So I was wondering, with Giacchino set to score the new movie, what exactly do you guys want out of a Spider-Man score? And how can Giacchino take his theme from the prior movies and update it to match the more grounded and mature tone of the new film? Thanks for all you do. The Friends from Work community and the podcast are amazing.
So I don't have an answer to this, but it's not because I haven't thought about it all the time.
Well, and also I'm pretty sure I saw that they released
A part of it.
Yeah, today. Have you listened to it?
I listened to it.
Okay, so I haven't listened to it yet. So I'm curious for your reaction because we have talked about that a lot over the years.
Here's what's interesting to me. In Homecoming, bum bum ba-na-na-na, boom, na-na-na-na-na, not the right key. That theme at the time didn't feel like it matched like the rubble liftoff sequence, right? It didn't feel like it had the same kind of it's just not the right fit. If it was a needle drop, I'd say this isn't the right song for this moment.
Yeah.
By the time No Way Home rolls around, that theme could not match like the Aunt May death or him saying goodbye to MJ any better than it does. Like, I don't think there's a song that's better than the slow piano version of that when he's saying goodbye, swelling to the is like, I have chills right now.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about that. What is it about the actual melody that doesn't work for all the cases? And then, I thought, Robbie, Danny Elfman's score for Spider-Man, the original, it also kind of has two parts, or it needed two parts that don't really work for all things. So like you definitely get the first title credit scene of like the and that's like the more like pump up or like mysterious, like, okay, that works for that, but like that wouldn't work to play over a really heroic moment. Because when he gets to the really heroic moment, it gets to the bum, 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 bum.
Yeah.
Which is very not the same as what he sets up at the beginning of this song. So maybe what I'm feeling is that Giacchino, I wish he'd kind of come up with two things. Like,
that's a really
for the
interesting
new movie, he doubles down on the same theme. And I wonder if maybe what I'm wishing is, can you keep that same theme for all the reflective Peter moments where he's really feeling lost? That's perfect. But could you have evolved it into something a little more mysterious and kind of like, what is the word? Badass? Like a little more like Spider-Man has evolved. He knows who he is. He's sure of himself. Like a darker sounding theme, a little more like what he does with the Batman. The two parts of the Batman, right?
No, there's kind of a not much, but a little bit of darkness to the Elfman theme, which makes sense for Danny Elfman.
Now, the only one that I can think of that doesn't struggle with this is Spider-Man the video game. because I feel like the works, as like a mysterious thing, and then the ba da 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 da, it's got a little bit of that mystery, and then it finally swells to this ba da da da. It swells to this thing where you go like ba da 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 da, and it feels just like you get from the Spider-Man Danny Elfman thing. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that I don't know. So I guess my long answer, and we can move on. Sorry, because I'm talking way too much. My long answer is I think Giacchino should save the theme for certain moments and evolve on it. I hope with some other like mystery.
And he he might in that they're the villain themes, but also starting with Far From Home, he has that What Bridges Love Burning.
The sweet tender thing.
Yeah, with him and MJ, and I feel like we get little bits of that in No Way Home too. And I think if
Spider-Man's
things
evolving,
like that,
make a song for his evolving specifically.
Yeah. I mean, but I as I go back and listen, I have thought the theme itself has gotten better each iteration. And No Way Home was a huge step forward because of how much he was willing to darken it and give it more weight. But I like the Vulture theme. I like the Mysterio theme. And I even I think you're exactly right. The main moment that sticks out to me in Homecoming is that lifting the rubble moment, where I just don't think it clicks the right way. And it's not that it needs to be the Elfman theme, but you're right. It needs to be something that is that second part of the Elfman theme, or a version of it that's more like what we get in the more somber moments of No Way Home. But instead, it feels just like the same kind of theme, which on its own, I actually think works really well for a Spider-Man that's in high school that doesn't really know what he's doing or who he is, because it is kind of playful and doesn't have a lot of weight to it. And you don't want it to give off the same vibe as like the Avengers theme, because that's not who that character is, or even like the Batman, because that's not who the character is yet. But I think that, I've never thought about it that way, but I think you're right. If he can kind of create a nice counterbalance there, then, I mean, certainly Giacchino is without a doubt one of the best, if not the best, working composer currently. I think Gordonson is the other one that comes to mind. But he does this already, right? In Love and Thunder, for example, the way he brings in Jane's like kind of badass theme mixed with when she's dying, that he does it with Aunt May, because they do the bum 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 ba da dum bum, but he starts bringing that do, 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 yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I'm trying to get there. Sorry, that's close to what it is.
Yeah.
So he does kind of have a counter theme he'll work in that changes the feel of it entirely. So I guess I'm just hoping that he starts doing that with something more mysterious. Like when the rubble is starting to be pushed off, I think it would almost work better for it to start going, from the strings of like the Spider-Man video game or the original Danny Elfman one.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Robbie and Kyle, it's Tom. So I have two questions. First, do you think we will stay street level throughout the entire film of Brand New Day and just get a Doomsday post-credit scene, or do you think we'll see something more intergalactic within the film? Second, do you think MJ and Peter will get back together, or is that storyline over? Thanks. Have a great day, guys.
Quick one, rapid fire here.
Yeah, I can take my thoughts on the MJ one real quick.
I think it's going to say street level, don't you? I don't think it's going to be tied into Doomsday at all. I mean, really at all.
Again, my biggest, I'm not afraid of this movie or for this movie, but the only thing that would make me really nervous is trying to do too much. Yeah. And that I think would be too much.
That'd be the line.
On the MJ thing, yeah, I was actually thinking about that for some reason the other day. Obviously she's in the movie, and Zendaya is a massive star. So they're going to wind up being together on screen. I think the interesting question is whether he is going to share his identity again, or if he's too kind of scarred from what happened with Aunt May and with MJ. You know, like he almost lost her there, if not for Andrew. And so I think that, like,
shout out Andrew.
That's a good tension for them to play with. And in that sense, I think when you have tension like that, you shouldn't ease up on it too quickly. So I think if he does decide to unmask again, I think they really need to make sure that feels earned and not just something where, okay, well, now off screen, this time has passed and he's just going to share it again, and it's all, and they kind of get back into the same mode. The only other thing I was going to say that
I think I know what should happen and what will happen, but keep going.
In the comics that they are pulling from so much when it comes to the Spider-Man identity being unveiled and then hidden again, and the magic spells and all of that, there's this element that they introduce where once Peter tells somebody who he is, the spell kind of like switches off for them entirely. So all of a sudden, it's not like he has to, like, he doesn't
have to like fill every gap in. And
there's like an issue with the Fantastic Four.
And we did,
yeah, it's like they don't remember, but then as soon as he like unmasks, they're like, oh,
they remember
wait,
all of
it. And I kind of think if they're gonna do it, that would be cleaner.
It has to be that versus like a whole montage of him explaining everything or like trying to earn that emotional beat back.
Yeah, but what were you gonna say?
Okay, so here's what I think. I was thinking about this too randomly. Yeah, I think you have to take into consideration the off-screen stuff. Off-screen stuff, these people are married. I think they truly love spending time together. I mean, every time I see them talk, they are not shying away from how cool it is that they get to do the press tour together.
Right.
You're not having to leave your family to go do this month-long press tour worldwide. I also then think about every iteration of MJ I've ever seen, and they want the Peter MJ relationship and tension at least for a while. And we really didn't get it in the first 3 movies. They're going to get together. They're 100% going to be together. And I think in a lot of ways off screen, they also want to run back some of the Raimi beats. I keep talking about Tom Holland doing all this research. And I think he probably found there to be Spider-Man fans from the original 2 movies who want some of those things. The poor, the bad apartment, the cheap suit, doesn't have the tech. But with that also, this tension with MJ and some of those things. So I also heard that the screen tests of this movie have been that it's the best Spider-Man movie ever, with some people bothered by the ending. Now, what could that be? I'm wondering. Here's what I think they should do. I think they should kill Ned. I think the movie ends with Ned dying. And in the process of Ned dying, that's where MJ discovers his identity at the very end. And maybe our people are mad that they're together and she figures out who he is at the end. But I think if you, and by the way, I'm going to talk about this ad nauseum next week, because I just did my video and I just watched Homecoming again. One of the best movies ever made. It's one of the funniest movies ever made. And Ned is so good in the movie. I just think by killing Ned, you set up the stakes, you clear the emotional runway that he doesn't have all these people knowing his identity. It's just like the original MJ when she kind of figures it out after a while.
Yeah.
It's just that. Maybe she slowly figures it out, and you clear this other piece off the table, and it sets the table for like Harry or Norman, or like that's the route I think they want to start going. That's my bold prediction. So I think Ned dies. And I think him and MJ are together. And at the very end of the movie, she discovers his identity. Boom. It's July 8th. There's the prediction.
Wow. Yeah,
it's not
that would make
crazy,
sense.
Right? It's not that crazy.
No. That would make sense. Yeah, I mean, I am. It's interesting. They really are. They're making Ned in those movies sort of a Harry. One thing that's weird from a comics perspective is, you have the stuff that exists in the actual original comics, and then you have the comics that kind of down the road reframe all that stuff. And so there are things that are seen as being really core to the Spider-Man mythos they're not retcons, but they've certainly been enhanced retroactively. And one of those is this idea that Harry is Peter's lifelong best friend. Like that, it's something that they have, as they've kind of gone back, they've really expanded this one slice in time where that was the most the case.
Sure.
And then you see it showing up in like the Raimi films where they very
but
much are.
But that wasn't always the story.
Right. But, so you have now this idea that Spider-Man, that Peter Parker has three main people in his life, his own age, not counting like Aunt May. And it's typically like Harry, Gwen, and Mary Jane. And those are kind of his prime people. Maybe like Flash Thompson, depending on
Gwen,
how you're looking at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I look at this and I think that they really have made Ned what a lot of folks would make Harry. Like certainly what Raimi did with Harry is what these movies have done with Ned, except, Harry has that like dark side and the frustration with his dad.
And Ned's kind of like goofy, happy-go-lucky.
Yeah, and so, like they play with that idea in No Way Home with him saying, my best friend tried to kill me. And,
right.
And I know I will see people every now and then very seriously ask when they're going to have Ned become the Hobgoblin. And I really hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I just don't want it to be Ned or Jacob Batalon. Like that it doesn't feel that doesn't feel right to me.
No,
I feel like the crazier thing would be that he dies and right as Peter was like, maybe as he's dying, he reveals who he was and then Ned dies and it's heartbreaking.
Or
something.
Peter loses control of his powers and accidentally causes his death.
Because Ned is so fun. Oh, that would be traumatic. That would be, it'd be so good.
And it would, fit in the general guilt thing.
You're right. So I'll change the subject for a quick second. I do think that would be another thing that Tom Holland would have learned when he was doing his research, is that I think people feel like when Peter from the Sam Raimi trilogy goes through trauma, it feels more intense because he doesn't have all these other safeguards and he has to go through a lot. And then there was a little bit of anger that Tom Holland didn't have to do that with Uncle Ben and all this stuff. So kind of retroactively, they do it with Aunt May in the last movie, and it's really powerful. But I think people feel like he's light on the trauma department. If you compare it to like Wanda, for example, or Loki or whatever, Thor, what these people have gone through. So I could see them doing something shocking, and maybe that's the ending they don't like. Maybe it's MJ that dies instead of Gwen Stacy on like a fall or something traumatic to set up the next two movies for him or whatever.
I just don't, unless Zendaya has said she wants out.
No, she loves it. That's the problem. That's not a problem, but like
I just can't imagine them ever writing her out of the. I mean, that's just, she is such a huge star, and she's so good.
It's not business smart, you mean?
Right. And also, I do think that there is this, we've talked about it a little bit, but in the comics community, man, for the last 20 years, there's been this very, very vocal group of folks that are so mad that Peter and Mary Jane are not together in the comics. And I think that if you're talking about Tom Holland reading that stuff and reading the vibe of the fans, I think that he must be familiar with that tension. And I mean, there's a whole, so much of the draw to this later Hickman Ultimate series was that it was Peter and Mary Jane are together and everybody wants that. But what I'll say is I think if you go back and read those comics when Peter and MJ were together, there were really good moments, but often they were having to try to figure out like what to do with it now. You know, it's like, okay, well, they're together. She knows he's Spider-Man. She's okay with it.
Right. In the games, she helps with a lot of stuff, and that feels kind of weird at times. You know that?
Yeah. Well, like, you need, like, you can do that, but it almost has to be the end of the story.
Right. Like the last shot is MJ staring out the window in the Sam Raimi trilogy, kind of like with a look of a little bit disappointment now. Like, oh, this is my life now.
And then, you know, a lot of the problems with Spider-Man 3 is they now need to introduce new tension by making Peter like a really terrible boyfriend. Right. And all this stuff where it's like, well.
Or you introduce like Felicia or Gwen Stacy or some other love triangle like Spider-Man Blue.
Yeah, yeah.
Is the other tension.
And that's that would be an interesting idea. And because we really haven't had Peter as the ladies' man, which is a version of him that we have gotten in the comics, or, you know, that love triangle aspect. But I guess my broader point is I like the idea of Peter and Mary Jane being together and her not knowing he's Spider-Man. I think that's where the best dramatic tension is. I think that...
So keep that for a movie or two?
Yeah, or you know, just because we saw it,
where
but
did you
very
go?
much in the...
Why'd you miss our dinner date?
Yeah, like, and in the high school context, we do, like Far From Home and Homecoming both do it a lot, but it's a lot... It generally feels lower stakes. And I think that is a lot of the stuff in the Raimi movies that work so well. It's this, like, Peter can never really have what he wants in either life because he's constantly being torn between the two. And it's like if he would just lean into one or the other, then... And like, Norman Osborn makes that kind of explicit in No Way Home. If you just leaned into being this kind of godlike person, you could have whatever you want. And instead, you wind up miserable because you can't really have anything. And I think that all culminates in him literally losing everyone in his life at the end of No Way Home. So I think that is something that they can now mine in a real way. And I just think that they would be making a mistake to resolve that stuff too early.
Okay. Going back to put a bow in this on the Ned thing, I just think that Ned kind of like from the trailer, Ned represents the high school era to me. Even in the trailer, he's still kind of doing some of the fun, happy-go-lucky. And by the way, he's one of my favorite parts of the movie. I'm not saying that, but he represents that era. It's clear to me that they are having Zendaya age up a little bit. She's with a guy. She's like got her hairstyle different. I can see Zendaya. My point is I see MJ and I don't necessarily think high school anymore, which is what they want, which is good. I see Ned and I still think high school. And so I think that's a good way to kind of put that era to bed, so to speak. Yeah. And we know Zendaya is capable of doing the heavy drama, like older adult thing. I'm not saying that Jacob isn't, but it's just, again, we're seeing that character, I think, is going that way with MJ. And so I think that's the way to do it.
And you don't have a friend gang in the same way as you get older. Like, you have friends, but it's like there's this thing in high school where it's just like you have
there's
your
a part
crew.
of it's like we're going to always be together. We're never going to, and then it's like in reality, probably not in 5 years. You know, you'll talk to him a couple
or at least
like
not in that same way. Like you're going to go catch up with that guy. You're going to go like grab dinner or go see a movie, but you're not going to be like, okay, let's all go meet at the Snow Cone Shack today.
That's right.
Which is something that I used to do a lot in high school and miss, frankly.
Okay, this has been... Sometimes because of the internet delay, I start my transition and then you get a one-liner in there while I'm talking. Sometimes I miss them because I'm starting the next sentence, but you get one in there and that was good. I did not do a lot of Snow Cone Shacks, to be honest, but you were also in the South and I was in the North, so it wasn't a lot of snow cone necessity all the time. This has been one of my favorite episodes in a long time. This is so much fun. If you want more of these conversations, please share this episode. Share it to everybody. Tell everyone to listen to this podcast. This is so much fun. We're going to do a saga so far next week. And here's the thing. We have to do these last 3 questions rapid fire. And I don't mean to do a disservice to these people, but we're already at 71 minutes. And I know I have to drop the X-Men interview in here. So it's a 90-minute episode. And these questions are going to get me going if I'm not careful. And you and I have to record next week's episode because I'm going to be in Michigan. So just behind the scenes, I got to keep this moving. So here we go. Rapid fire 3 questions.
I just wanted to ask, how do you think they will write Spider-Man off due to the fact he's not supposed to be in Doomsday? I'm pretty sure he's supposed to appear back in Secret Wars. I might be wrong about that. But yeah, that's my question. Other podcast, keep going. Thank you.
I've heard this exact same, it's a great question because I've heard this discussion before that apparently Spider-Man's not in Doomsday. But then I've also heard that, and this is obvious, Doomsday is going to focus on a select amount of characters, and then Secret Wars is going to explore all the non-Doomsday characters. So I don't know what that means, but we're pretty sure that Doomsday is going to be, anchored by the Thunderbolts, the Fantastic Four, maybe like Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, etc. Like with Wolverine, that's like kind of and Loki, I think, Thor,
well, for sure,
Captain America,
the X-Men for sure.
That's kind of like, the older X-Men.
Yeah. But
then I would imagine that whatever happens allows Secret Wars, kind of like Endgame and Infinity War, although it's the inverse.
Yeah.
Because, they're all dusted away. Secret Wars then explores maybe
But
Peter
you do
Parker
have like
from our
Scott
universe.
and Clint in Endgame in a way that they're not in Infinity War.
Yeah, right. So that makes sense to me. How they write him at the end of this movie to make that make sense is interesting. It could be as simple though as whatever happens with Doctor Doom does not involve Peter. Like Doctor Doom could just meet at the Avengers Tower, Peter's not there, and say, "Come with me," and they leave. And that could be it.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, that's why Peter wasn't involved because he wasn't even invited to this meeting, you know what I mean, or whatever.
That's one of those things that I don't know how much this is still playing out now that we don't have the King element, but for the longest time, I thought we were doing like an Avengers Forever thing where the Avengers go back to, like they pull these different Avengers from different versions. But I think that the way that could work that would set it apart from Infinity War is that it is just like you have these people pulled into a situation. And same with Secret Wars. Like you have people literally pulled into this planet and all this stuff happens there. And then they come back and there are ramifications for them more than for the world itself. But I think that's what they should do here and not make it so that they even have to do much with Peter in Brand New Day to set that up. I think they could, if it's going to go the way that I would want it to go, I think it's like what you're saying, where Doomsday does it by itself, because I really don't think the MCU would benefit from another global cataclysm. Like, I think that they need to not have that. I think it needs to be more cataclysmic on a personal level for the people that are involved. And multiversal, like it has the potential to be multiversally cataclysmic, but not in a way where the everyday person living and existing in the 616 world is aware of it.
Yep. Agreed.
Hey guys, it's Jalen. Question for you guys. Do you think that the Void is going to be mentioned and or seen in Spider-Man? And what are your thoughts on if they don't mention or see it? Thank you guys. Bye.
The more I've thought about Thunderbolts and the Void and the impact it has, the further I've reeled it back, I think it's pretty clear since Thunderbolts, they're not super interested, like in Daredevil, referencing the Void. I mean, maybe there was a little bit of like Frank being haunted in the special that maybe, you could say whatever, but I think in general, they're kind of letting that be a standalone thing. And I'm also okay with just saying, headcanon wise, that the reach of it had only happened. By the way, I'm assuming he's talking about the Void like Sentry, not Void like Loki. Oh gosh, I just realized that right now.
That's actually, that's a good point. I went Sentry too, just because of the New York connection.
Well, the Sentry thing,
I would think.
I'm assuming that it's only a couple. You could headcanon it by saying it only went a few blocks. By the time Yelena stopped it, we only saw it over like, you know. So there's a very
it's just
good
the
chance
people that had been like shadowed out, right?
Right. They were, and I think even that, because they changed it and fixed it, maybe those people that were getting shadowed out, all they know is like, that was weird. Like I had a horrible nightmare and now it's done. But like, oh, it was a weird nightmare in the middle of the day. Oh, okay. Like I don't think it had like long lasting ramifications beyond what had happened because they stopped it. So I think they're not going to show it or make a big deal of it. However, my call is there will be one reference when like Yelena's going to say like, Bob, go, we need you. And he's going to say like, remember last time? Like, you know, what if I can't control it? And that's going to be
in Doomsday.
In Doomsday. Oh, sorry. In Doomsday, that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I think here, no, I don't think they reference it. I think they just say Spider-Man wasn't in that 3-block radius. That's my gut. And if it's the Loki void, we won't see it in Spider-Man, but I think we'll see it in Doomsday.
Yeah, I think if I had my way, there would be some throwaway reference, because that's all it takes, to either the void or just the existence of the New Avengers. Like the New Avengers Tower, like maybe he swings by it, or
Yelena's supposed to cameo, right? So,
oh, is she?
Yes, I think so. In this movie, not Doomsday, this movie.
That's fun. Or, I mean, again, Bruce, like I there are different people that could comment on it. I would also love to see Bruce comment on Ross turning into a giant red Hulk, which is, you know, something that he would probably have thoughts on. So I think all you need is a little line, and the Spider-Man movies have always done a really good job of that, a better job than a lot of other ones. Like from the get-go, like Homecoming references all the different cleanup stuff. So it's like, you know, they're in DC and they talk about the Triskelion. Far From Home, they make references to like where Doctor Strange and Captain Marvel and all the stuff with Tony and picking up with the Avengers.
In my class, yeah.
And then in No Way Home, you get a lot of comments on still the kind of like endgame fallout. So I think that
Flash saying I have a date with Black Widow, remember?
Right. Oh, right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And the Captain America.
Yeah.
So I would like it if they would continue that trend, because I think what was great about that stuff is it was never something that sacrificed the coherence of the plot or felt forced or too like fan servicey. It's just kind of what you and I always talk about, like a little like 5-second line to reestablish and reinforce the existence of a shared universe, which is the whole fun of the MCU.
Okay, so this is Wallace calling from Birmingham, Alabama. Just was wondering, do you think that Miles Morales will ever be featured in the upcoming MCU project, or do you think there will be any Easter eggs in Spider-Man Brand New Day about him? Thanks.
There's obviously the rights issue with any time Miles Morales or anything has to come together. There's a sensitivity from Sony because Miles is killing it for them. It's like one of their only things that's killing it. So to just like give it all over is probably difficult. And apparently Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios and Disney have even asked like, what's going to be the plan with Miles? And that's their sensitive topic. That's the reported story. On screen, you and I have kind of been on camera saying it's probably best to wait and then like pass the torch, if you will. Now, I don't think that Peter Parker Spider-Man has to die, but I think they're still going to probably give Tom Holland like a whole nother trilogy, 3 more movies before they even really hint at it. And they hint at it in Homecoming. And so if you kind of do the math, like Aaron Davis is referencing a nephew. Well, that makes sense, but that nephew at that moment could be 6. And so now at this point, maybe he's only 10 still. So I still think you have time before it's even a thing. I would think you would want Miles to be 15, 16, whatever. Yeah. And I think you want that
Which, depending on if he blipped, I guess he could be.
Right. But I think you want that gap to be as large as possible. Like I think what works so much in Into the Spider-Verse is that the Peter B. Parker is like a 45-year-old. Yeah. And Miles is what? 17? or something like that. And I think that gap works because it's a true mentorship. they definitely try to do that same thing in Spider-Man 2, the video game, the passing of the torch and mentorship. But even that's going to get interesting because they're pretty close in power and age. And so what does it look like for them to have true two Spider-Mans, and how do they actually make games where it's always two Spider-Mans, et cetera? So my point is, yes, Miles will happen. It's not going to happen for a long time. And I think at this given moment, he's very, very young. So if you get a reference, it's more just an Easter egg for you than it is for anything else.
I think that's right. And I do, again, this may not be the way that they handle it, but I do feel pretty strongly that that character works better when Peter Parker has died. Because I think the beauty of that is like what you get in Into the Spider-Verse, like the loss that defines Miles, like what
it's Peter.
Yeah, it was Uncle Ben for Peter, and it's Peter for Miles, and it kind of continues that legacy. And the other thing the comic did really well is what you're saying. When it starts out, he is even younger than Peter when he starts out, and certainly younger than Peter when he's died. And so you get kind of a different take on it, in addition to everything else about Miles that they bring in that's like the whole mythology that's different. But I've seen things from Tom Holland talking about how he would want to end things and orchestrate a handoff. And I think that that's so much cleaner. I frankly don't ever love the two Spider-Mans or like the whole like expansion of Spider-Man type people in the same way I don't love the quote unquote Bat family stuff in the Batman comics, which I know a lot of people like really, really love, because I just think it works better when he's a loner. So many of the themes I think work better when it's kind of the weight of the world on this one guy. So yeah, I do. They have certainly like they've laid the groundwork, and as much as Sony is like saying that they're not going to hand Miles over, you know, they also made a point to include Donald Glover in Across the Spider-Verse, like
and the reference to Peter, our Peter.
Yeah.
In holy cow. What great questions. What a great audience. It would mean so much if you listen to this episode, share this episode, check out our website, theffwpodcast.com. Check out our new merchandise there. This has been so much fun. Next week, we're going to be back doing our Saga So Far episode, which is a rundown of everywhere Spider-Man has been to this point. Thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. Thanks for asking questions. Enjoy your summer. Enjoy X-Men 97, episode 5, and getting your mind right for Spider-Man. We'll see you next time here on Friends from Work.